Hey.
Just put my key in the lock to enter my home.
Hey, sorry, sir.
Hello.
Can I speak to you for a second?
Depends.
I mean, I'm just wondering, I have it on good authority that you're one of the jurors in this Rittenhouse case thing going on.
Maybe yes, maybe no. What's up?
I just want to figure out a little something. We want to figure out what verdict you're leaning on. It's totally professional.
I'm out of the place. You shouldn't be asking me this.
I would also like to know your identity if you'd give it to me, and also the identity of any jurors who might also be on this case as well. Don't worry. MSNBC here. See my badge?
Oh, MSNBC?
MSNBC.
Oh, great. I have the addresses, social security.
On this case as well.
Good job, Taylor.
You guys broke character. Keep going.
Well,
power through.
It was very difficult.
Here.
It was very difficult when I was hearing my own voice in my head.
It's tough. I know.
Anyways, guys, our skit points to the complete and utter kangaroo court that is happening right now in the United States of America in regard to Kyle Rittenhouse, the 18-year-old man who is being tried right now for 2 deaths and 1 injury that happened in Kenosha in response to people attacking him. So by and large, this has been a kangaroo court since it started, since this case began to go to trial. We've had several different attempts to find jurors who are actually fit to sit on the jury for this due to bias and media coverage and all of that fun stuff. We've seen a complete and utter laughable prosecution case set towards Kyle Rittenhouse, and just some very, very funny videos coming out of the prosecution on this trial. And now, not only have we seen jurors being threatened and followed and trying to get doxxed, we see it coming from journalism here in America. MSNBC. Here's the video out of the court with the judge talking about a recent incident that has happened to a juror in this case.
Last evening, a person who identified himself as James G. Morrison and who claimed that he was a producer with NBC News, employed for MSNBC, and under the supervision of a person, what's going on? Oh, okay. Under the supervision of someone named Irene Bayan in New York for MSNBC. The police, when they stopped him because he was following at a distance of about a block and went through a red light, pulled him over and inquired of him what was going on, and he gave that information and stated that he had been instructed by Ms. Bayan in New York to follow the jury bus. The matter is under further investigation at this point. And the media has asked questions about it. That's the latest I have. And he was ticketed for violating a traffic control signal. He's not here today from what I'm told. And I have instructed that no one from MSNBC News will be permitted in this building for the duration of this trial.
There we go. Good on the judge for taking these situations very seriously and trying to put a nix on them, because now MSNBC is no longer allowed in this courthouse. And it does seem that the accusations placed, or at least the information given by the man who was pulled over, is actually true. We had Tim Pool sort of look into this a little bit, specifically the name Irene Bayan. She did have a LinkedIn, but that got swiped off the internet. I'm assuming she deleted it because she was getting a lot of questions through her LinkedIn. Here's the video of him going through that and checking that out. Yep, this profile is no longer available. So it seems to me that Irene Bayan is a real person who does work for MSNBC, who most likely gave this guy orders to go and follow that jury bus. Again, not allowed. I don't know how much I need to stress that. Not allowed to do that.
No, you are not. It is a bad move for sure. I mean, it is kind of the antithesis of what justice is supposed to be about, when you are going and talking to these people, trying to figure out what they're going to do and find out who they're going to, if they're going to acquit or not. it's truly a terrible indicative statement on MSNBC for the reporter to do this. You know, just the lengths that these people will go to. I think that it proves a bigger point that a lot of these people just don't care about standards whatsoever when it comes to journalism. I mean, or even just being a safe American. I mean, these things are not supposed to happen. All these things with the trial are not supposed to happen. I mean, the fact that they're not saying mistrial right now is just insane to me, especially even with the video that didn't work, that it was too blurry. They showed a different video than the other people actually had. It's just a conglomerate of messed up stuff at this trial. Right.
We've had the FBI withholding footage. We've had a struggle to find jurors, as I stipulated earlier, and just blatant BS from the prosecution on this. And we've already speculated and talked about this trial in particular because Kyle Rittenhouse is being tried at a little over a year after this incident has occurred. And for a little over a year, there has been massive media outrage towards him, people characterizing him as a white supremacist, Facebook censoring any posts that are put in support of him, GoFundMe not allowing anybody to raise funds for his legal defense in this case. I mean, he has borne the brunt of people mischaracterizing who he is as a person and the entire situation. We had the FBI withholding footage of the actual incident until it was called out by the court. So there's just so many things that have gone wrong in this case that point to the fact that this young man is not getting a fair and just trial, which everybody deserves here in America. So what happens here, I hope, is an acquittal or, when the verdict does come in. But my goodness, it's just BS.
No. Everyone needs to be more like Kyle Rittenhouse, okay? Kyle Rittenhouse is a hero. He is a hero. The things that he did, the things that he is still trying to do. I mean, the fact that Kyle Rittenhouse did what he did showcases the type of America that we are in today. That lawlessness is fine and that people who try and defend their cities, their counties, whatever it is, are the evil ones, according to the mainstream today. Mm-hmm. That is why Kyle is a hero. That is why we should all be supporting him. That's why we've been talking about him on the show every single day, because of how important it is and how much we truly respect this guy for what he's doing. Everyone should be following along and know what's actually happening in the trial too. It's one thing to, read what CNN says about the trial. It's another thing to actually watch it and understand what is happening within there.
Yeah, anybody who's seen the video of what happened in that incident knows that this is just, this is all farcical. It is all theater. And MSNBC following this jury bus, again, not allowed, is such a perfect picture of the way that American media runs today. They are not journalists. They do not have journalistic integrity. They do not care to have journalistic integrity. They do not care that you have the truth. They care that you have their narrative. And that's what they're trying to do here. What this reporter was trying to do by following that jury bus, we do not know. Were they going to dox the jury? Were they going to ask the jury about their verdict? Were they going to infiltrate and try to give them information that influenced their verdict on this? We have no clue. And we might not ever have one unless an investigation is launched, with which the judge says is going to happen. But who knows what their intent was with this? But we know it is not the intent of journalistic integrity.
I'm just sad that we're going to miss out on MSNBC's just exceptional and unbiased coverage of this case.
Right.
They just do such a great job with hard-hitting facts and factual reporting.
What are we going to do?
It's just tragic.
What are we going to do? What am I going to do if I can't hear Joy Reid talk to me about Kyle Rittenhouse?
White tears.
Yes, about white tears and how effective they are. I think I'll die.
I will be in shambles.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly.
I'll need therapy. Undoubtedly.
How does that make you feel?
Makes me feel like I need more therapy, and probably not from Will, but
I give great therapy.
From somebody. Now, speaking of biased media that cares nothing for journalistic integrity, here is the headline out of the Blaze. Bill Gates has given $319 million to bankroll select media outlets and change the public narrative, and the internet has receipts. This is the report. Now, I want to go ahead and preface this. Bill Gates is pretty much unloved by both the political left and the political right. Mm-hmm. I think by and large, people know this man is not a good guy and he doesn't have good intentions.
I think so too. I think most people would agree.
But let's get into the scope of just how powerful he is as an individual. So again, that's the $319 million number for the amount of money he has given out to different media outlets. What are these media outlets? Well, there's a lot. They had to go in and review over 30,000 grants given out by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Now, the main beneficiaries of these millions and millions of dollars is CNN, NBC, NPR, PBS, The Atlantic, New York Public Radio, and more. And what way do all those news outlets lean? Just riddle me that, Will.
Mm-hmm. No, it's not even a riddle. It's pretty obvious.
It's not a riddle. No.
How can you have media in this country when the media is bought out? It's like people expect Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world, to buy the Washington Post and think that the Washington Post is going to write articles that are bad about Jeff Bezos or about billionaires or tax things on billionaires, like all these different things. Like, no, of course not. If Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is giving hundreds of thousands up to millions of dollars to certain news organizations, what do you think they are going to report on?
Yeah.
You will not have fair journalism in this country when you have that going on. I mean, Bill Gates is genuinely evil in so many of the things that he has invested in that you guys probably don't have any idea the things that he has his feet in. I mean, when it comes to the synthetic beef and all that kind of stuff, the farmland that he owns, he has 300 million or 300,000 acres of farmland.
Bill Gates
the
is the biggest farmer in America.
Yeah,
technically.
Biggest private farmer.
Yeah,
there's still like 900 million acres of farmland.
That's amazing.
And he owns about 300,000 of them. But what he does when he does this is that he is making it so that essentially small farmers are not owning their own land anymore. Right? When all these investors, big companies in China as well, is coming in and investing in American farmland, when they're coming in and doing this, it makes it so that small business farmers are not being able to build up their own farms, right? Because you have some huge conglomerate foundation coming in and buying all these farms. And then what do they want to do? Bill Gates wants to get rid of meat. He wants to get rid of meat and turn it all into synthetic meat. He's buying up the farmland so that they can do that. I mean, it's just, man, yeah, not a good guy.
Yeah, I mean, and it points to that our battles can be fought together. It doesn't matter what side of the political aisle you fall on this one. You should care about this. And for those of you who say, well, he's not using it for influence, he's simply just giving them resources and money. Let's look at the article here. The money is generally directed towards issues close to the Gates heart. For example, $3.6 million was given to CNN to go towards gender equality in least developed countries, and talking about the fight for women and girls around the world. He's given money to go through different racialized and diversity and equity and inclusion for these different programs and these different media outlets. He's given money. I did a story on this a while back. There was a big story that came out months ago as the news cycles go through, called The Pathway to Equitable Math. And you guys remember this as the 2 + 2 does not equal 4, because that's racist. Bill Gates was funding that. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was the primary funder for that initiative to review and take away objectivity from math.
Look, he's giving money, just like you just said, about gender equality across the world.
Yep.
Okay, that is something that he is giving money to. Gender equality across the world. Is he giving money to Ayaan Hirsi Ali? Is he giving money to people who are actually for gender equality against these Islamist nations? These nations that are horrible to women, like in Saudi Arabia, you are a second-class citizen. In Somalia, you have genital mutilation for almost all of the girls who are born in that country. No, they're not calling out any of that kind of stuff. They're not calling out any of this stuff. They just call out what's easy. They can put money towards a news organization and say, hey, talk about gender equality across the world, and say that women need to do better in all these places, which in most places women are actually doing better than men, at least in Western countries. They're doing much better than men. And it's like you are funding nonsensical stuff that in no way is actually helping people, but makes you feel good and is pushing the agenda that you want to push. Because the real issues that we should be talking about, like look at the climate change stuff. Bill Gates again with the farmland stuff. They want to say, oh, it's all about climate change. It's about climate change. It's like, well, then why aren't you giving money to the city of San Francisco? Because the city of San Francisco stopped putting trash cans on their beaches because they said it cost them too much money to have workers come and empty the trash cans. But you're not doing that, so you're making your beaches and all these places look like crap. And then you say you care about climate change. I know that's a lot. I'm going on a lot of different things, but there's so much of this that is like, people will always be fine giving money to these solutions and these things they say are going to help people. They're not looking at the real problems ever, because they know that once the real problems are solved, which they have, most of the real problems, at least in America, have been solved, and now they're getting worse because of these stupid people, then they won't have anywhere to feel morally justified about it, to send their money to. So they don't solve real problems.
And the baseline of it, it's even if you were solving real problems or problems that are near and dear to your heart, what you're doing is disingenuous because you are influencing media with your money. You are not getting journalistic integrity when it comes to the actual God honest truth, the objectivity of the matter. You are getting Bill Gates' opinion of the objectivity of the matter. You are getting what he thinks about certain things. You are not getting the information that is your right to have. You are getting what he believes is the information that you have the right to have. And it is not just with news media outlets. It's not just your CNNs, your MSNBCs, your NBCs, your NPRs, although he is funding that to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. It's also the entertainment programs that you're watching. Here's more. He's also in direct connection with Viacom CBS, which produces shows like ER and Law & Order SVU. And it says here that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has a direct network with these people, and they intervene to change the storylines of these popular TV shows. So when you turn on Law & Order SVU and you start hearing about how racial equity is the most important issue when it comes to sex crimes in New York City, or you turn on ER and you talk about how a transgender comes into the ER because they were beaten in the street for being trans, it's because these people are influencing and infiltrating the storylines of the shows that you and your children watch.
Yeah. It used to be Grey's Anatomy. Now they're going to rename it Gay's Anatomy.
They would if they had their way.
They probably would. They probably would.
Oh my goodness.
It's crazy.
It's the rabbit hole. It's one of those things that is just, again, I can't stress enough. It's a uniting factor between both sides of the political aisle. No matter who you are, no matter what you believe, you want the God honest truth. You don't want this. You don't want bias. You don't want some billionaire telling you what you can and cannot think and what you can and cannot see. You want the truth. And even if we come to different conclusions about our own opinions on the truth, we deserve to have it. And he is not giving us that. The elites who control these media outlets are against you having proper information.
Well, that's why I mean, you were half right, because the people who, like, there are people on the left and on the right who are fine with this happening, but they are part of the elite. It is a class issue.
Nobody should be fine.
No one should be fine. Of course not. But they don't care because they're part of this elite. I mean, it is a class issue.
Yes, it is.
It is them versus us. It is the normal people, hardworking Americans. I mean, if they cared about some of these problems, like go to California, okay? Go out into the desert of California, and you will find illegal immigrants coming into the desert and setting up weed and weed, marijuana farms out there. And what do they do with all the toxic waste and the pesticides and stuff? They dump them into rivers, they leave it around, which is horrible for the environment. Again, if you say that you care about the environment or you care about these issues, then you should be working on the things that the common man also cares about. Yeah. Okay? But you're not. It's all just virtue signaling, worthless garbage that these people push for. Literally, it is worthless.
It is. That's all it does, is it demoralizes you. Like, all of these stories are surrounded around just demoralizing people, changing the culture, changing the way you lead your lifestyle, telling you the way that you lead your lifestyle is wrong, talking to you about all this injustice and all of this oppression. How does that make you feel as a normal person? Demoralized. And what do people do when they're demoralized? They either look within themselves, which we don't love individualism anymore, so nobody's going to do that, or they look up and go, well, somebody fix this, somebody solve it. And Bill Gates, as he funds these issues and funds you learning about these issues and funds you being demoralized, is going to say, well, come to me, I can solve it. We've seen him do it in crisis after crisis. Come to Bill Gates. I've got the money, I've got the resources, and I'm smart enough to tell you what's true and what's not. And let me fix it, and let me work with the US government to do that. That is the ultimate goal.
I'm sure in the comments right now, or after this video is done, there's going to be people giving the conservative case for Bill Gates buying up all the farmlands and media companies. You know, I'm sure there's something. The conservative case for vaccine mandates. It's like, man, not good. Okay, we can't just look at like this lens of what, you know, we have been told of what this market economy is supposed to be. We have to look at these things and understand the people who have power and how they wield that power to abuse the system. That is what we have to do.
It is what we have to do. And it's just like, sometimes everybody needs to step out of the bounds of their ideology to identify something that is common among all of us. And this is common among all of us. This is a common fight for us, at least the people who are not elites on both sides. And step out of your ideology for a second. Mm-hmm. Don't come and give the conservative take on why Bill Gates is allowed, blah, blah, blah. You know that it's wrong. You can see it and you know that it's wrong. So step up and say, okay, even though this may go against my ideology, here's where the fight is, because you should care more about what's true and what's right and what's wrong.
I know. I posted today on Instagram this morning about Virginia's new governor, And him saying that, hey, I'm not going to impose or vaccine mandates, or, I'm not going to impose, or I'm going to let whatever county or whatever do their own thing with the vaccine mandates, instead of just saying no vaccine mandates in the state of Virginia. Mm-hmm. It's like, what the hell are you doing? And then people are, coming to me saying, it's fine to do that. That's what it's all about. Like, they can choose what they want. I'm like, no, you should just ban it. You should just ban it. These are horrible things to do to people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be allowed.
No, it shouldn't be allowed.
Should not be allowed.
Straight to jail. Straight to jail.
Now let's get into a question that has a lot of nuance to it, and it's probably going to be a deeper discussion. Do Americans need to live more like Europeans? And this is an article, an opinion piece out of Bloomberg, talking specifically about the supply chain shortages, although we can sort of step outside of that, go from micro to macro and talk about more differences between American society and European society. But the basis of this article is saying that U.S. consumers need to start living more like European consumers, in direct reference to the supply chains. Now, let's get into the substance of this particular article. Again, you can read this on Bloomberg Opinion. Now, it's become the conventional wisdom that the U.S. economy is built on America's endless appetite to buy lots and lots of stuff. Household consumption makes up about 67% of the GDP. When the economy falters, we're told spending is our patriotic duty. But suddenly, Americans can't spend like they used to. Store shelves are emptying, and it can take months to find a car, refrigerator, or sofa. If this continues, we may need to learn to do without. And horrors live more like the Europeans. That actually might not be a bad thing, because the U.S. economy could be healthier if it were less reliant on consumption. So over time and over the past few decades, our consumption has grown at a very, very high rate. And when we look at that in comparison to other European countries, it looks not the same at all. We do consume at an alarming rate. Now, the opinion laid out in this article is that Americans should get used to consuming at a lower rate, more like the Europeans, and living less excessively, because it is inherently harmful to us as Americans.
Yeah, luxury items have really been kind of the thing for America. Mm-hmm. As America's become more and more wealthy, we're the wealthiest country in the world. We have said we want to buy luxury items. Mm-hmm. You used to be able to maybe someone bought a yacht. Now I'm going to buy a super yacht. And now I'm going to buy a super, super yacht, right? Like, that's like the luxury items that we have in America have like totally expounded to be just the most wild things that people can imagine. And so that type of luxury industry has really blown up. And I think that's a lot of what they're trying to reference here in terms of that. And it's hard to say, because I don't want to be like Europe.
Yeah.
I don't like European style for men. I find it very feminine.
I don't think that's exactly what they're saying here.
It's not. I'm just saying.
What I would say was an interesting point laid out in this article. They talk about how our not our innate, but our Americanized sort of cultural leaning on consumption, and consumption at a very alarming rate, creates a lot of issues. One issue that they sort of lay out in this article is our direct relationship with China, which we all know are involved in a lot of crimes against humanity, especially when it comes to creating products and consumptions. And whereas our luxury market has grown quite a bit in America, I think what's grown more so than our luxury market is our day-to-day household item market, and not trying to get the best when it comes to those items, but getting the cheapest. And to get the cheapest, we are using slave labor in China and having increased production there, and outsourcing our manufacturing rather than doing it here at home, because we know here at home we are not going to produce as much as we can in the Chinese economy and in the Chinese market. So there's a lot to think about when it comes to should America look more like Europe? I think instead of outsourcing our manufacturing, we should bring it over to America. And if that means less consumption, then maybe that's the case. Well,
that's the, against the laissez-faire type of free market attitude.
Right.
Because if a company says I can make my stuff in China and then sell in America for cheaper than having to make it in America, then they're pretty much always going to choose to make their products in China.
They are. Regardless
of whatever human rights, well, not always, but sometimes regardless of human rights violations, because that's just makes them more money. So myself, I'm sure many other people agree, some people disagree. I think that a lot of these industries should in some ways be forced to make their goods and services in America. They should have to make a lot of their goods and services in America if their main market is selling to Americans. In many ways, first of all, it's a national security issue to be making some things across overseas, especially when it came to COVID. We're getting our masks, we were getting our PPP or PPC equipment. PPP equipment from over in China. We were getting the tests from China, all these different things from China. That is a national security threat. I think I'm an America first type of guy, okay? I want to put America first, not China first, not any of these other countries first. And if we do that, then I think we could have less consumption. But I think that we are so worried. I think that it goes to a deeper problem of not just like getting stuff from China, but that we feel like the things that we own are some sort of status symbol here in America versus maybe other places around the world.
I think that's a big part of it as well. I mean, there's so many factors that go into what we consume. I think the average American is probably not as consumed with being eco-friendly as people are in Europe, so that influences the way that you consume. We are also far more obsessed with materialistic items, as you said, and they don't even need to be luxury items. They can be cheap substitutes for those things, which is why we consume and consume and consume, and there's fake this and fake that and cheaper this and cheaper that, and in Europe that is not so pervasive of an issue when it comes to their culture. So in many ways, I would say I can agree with a lot of what is said in this article, that it would not hurt us to look and act a little bit more.
There's some
like
things.
Europeans.
Europe,
Some things.
Europe is not free like America.
No.
Nowhere is free like America. No, none of those European countries have a constitution like America.
Mm-hmm.
None of them have the First Amendment like America, obviously.
Yep.
So there's a lot of things about Europe that you would not want to have in America.
Absolutely.
It's like, that's why I love Fight Club. You seen Fight Club?
I have seen Fight Club.
Have you seen Fight Club, Taylor?
Have I seen Fight Club? Of course.
Okay, well, some people haven't seen Fight Club. I'm sure there's people watching who haven't seen Fight Club. Don't be so judgmental, Taylor. But Fight Club is a movie all about getting rid of material objects and kind of, finding yourself as a man and finding your true purpose in a lot of ways. And I love it for that, because it like looks at the consumer culture of America with Starbucks and all these different things and says, screw that. I'm going to live in squander and become a enlightened Ubermensch myself because of what I'm doing, and not worry about the material things that I have.
I mean, it's like you can be America first and love America and think America's the most exceptional country in the world. Does that mean we're devoid of problems? Absolutely not. And consumption is clearly one of those problems. And it's in everything. It is our relationship with China for these cheaper goods. It is our diet here when it comes to consumption in America. Mm-hmm. Our portion sizes in America are larger than they are in Europe. Our consumption of porn, our massive, we have the largest market for sex slavery in all of the world. So clearly Americans do have an issue with consumption, and it is not a knock on the country to admit that there are problems occurring in the country.
Right. Taylor, you're shaking your head no.
I think I hear everything. I'm skeptical about an over-reliance on China. I don't think consumerism is a good thing. I think it's very easily, you can go way too far with it. Mm-hmm. But I do think that America should be the most or among the most prosperous countries in the world. And I think the appetite for goods and services is largely what drives that. I think that for efficient economies and for to be competitive on the world stage, you need to be able to outsource certain things where it's more efficiently manufactured. But I also think that it makes sense. I mean, that's more of a macroeconomic sort of geopolitics where you have to put pressure on, like the government needs to put pressure on China. It's not necessarily like, I don't like the idea that we need to live. Like America. It's like the argument that, what was it? The Washington Post made about like, oh, you're upset about inflation. We'll just lower your expectations. It's like, oh, things are becoming less affordable. We'll just don't, as Americans, just don't expect to be as prosperous or don't expect to have access to as many goods or lower your lifestyle. It's like, I think there's a problem with debt in America. I think people are dumb with their money. I think they do spend too much money on things that they don't need for status symbols. I think there is a culture of materialism that's bad, but I don't think the solution to that is just to say blanket, let's nationalize or like bring everything back home, bring manufacturing back home, and it's dumb and it can shoot yourself in the foot. And while we're on it, like we removed our own ability to be competitive on the world stage when it comes to oil. Look what's happening to oil prices. We stopped our own production of that. I would start there and start to bring some money back into America where it's most self-sufficient to, instead of trying to like compete with China on making plastic toys or something and making like them be made in America. Like people will pay premium prices for goods that are made in America if that's something that they care about. But I don't know.
It's not so much
The
an economics
issue-
problem with that.
Right.
It's that the people